Welcome everybody. Another great episode of Playing with Perspective, the suspended animation podcast. And I have a lovely guest, Ella. How are you, Ella?
I'm good. Hi, everybody.
Hey, nice to have you, Ella. Now, Ella Zhang is a passionate organizational culture change practitioner. She firmly believes it is possible to create a happy and high-performing workplace where not only do employees feel proud and fulfilled to come to work, the owner also feels blessed and motivated to take the leap to grow the business exponentially. So welcome, Ella.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you.
And it's going to be a great podcast today, a topic that's really, really close to my heart. And I end up doing lots of posting and podcasting and blogging and videoing about, and it's about culture. So culture and environment. And we're going to be chatting about culture, how long does it take to build one, and all sorts of other great insights from Ella.
Thank you.
Pleasure. So I thought before we continue, maybe I'll just hand over to you, Ella, to just give us a little snapshot of your journey and what you specialize in, and then we'll launch into some Q&A.
Cool. So I think currently I'm the culture transformation practitioner. And I think this is the task the universe pushed me onto that path to learn how to do it.
Okay.
Because if you ask me back then in my high school, what is my dream vocation? I would tell you that's law, because I did have my very first bachelor degree in law, and being a lawyer, speaking for the people who cannot speak for themselves, that was my dream.
Wow.
But that dream broken when I first started in the workplace. So that is my very first experience of how workplace can really shape and change and condition a person. So back then, 20 years ago, everyone I met, they would tell me, Ella, you can never change the environment. You have to adapt into the environment. So if your workplace does not make you happy, you have to suck it up. So I guess underneath all of my friendly surface, I have this idea. Probably no, if we cannot change the environment, maybe we can create some environment. So at least, because we come to work minimum 8 hours a day.
Absolutely.
It's more than the time we spend with the loved ones.
Definitely.
So why we have to suffer? Why we have to compromise? Why we have to suppress our feelings? So I guess in the last 20 years, it's always one thing led to another. What I experienced in the workplace make me happy or make me less happy. I try to find a way to whether we can make it better. So I guess in 2011, I formally started working on the roles about organizational culture as an in-house consultant. Then later on, like 4 years ago, I started on my own consultancy, Institute of Growing Capacity, short name as iGrow, to formally support SMEs to create the culture. The business owners can benefit from that, and also the employee feel they can have lots of growth, lots of fulfilling in that environment. So I guess that's my journey. This is not my first choice, but it's the universe pushed me onto that path.
Beautiful. And I love what you said before. You said, if you can't change the environment, what did you say? If you can't change the environment,
if you cannot change your environment, you can either choose another one or create one for yourself.
Exactly.
So because as a human being, we are animal anyway. No matter how superior we are the product of our environment.
Definitely.
The way we behave, the way we interact, the way we think and feel, we're conditioned by our environment. So if we cannot be consciously or mindfully create our environment and the surroundings, eventually we're probably not going to be very happy as the outcome of the environment.
Absolutely. And I love that, because changing the environment can mean two things. It can mean changing the external environment or creating an external environment that's more suited to you. But at the same time, it can mean creating and changing your internal environment, which means working on yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. This is what we say culture transformation sometimes can be hard because it requires lots of self-work
Definitely.
because I tend to share with my clients as every single personal problems we're facing. If we consider that is the opportunity for evolution, then
100%.
there's a chance for us to find the solutions, right?
Definitely.
But if we stuck in that negative patterns and only pointing fingers and blaming the outside world, there's no chance for us to grow.
Yes.
But also at the same time, I think it's very important to be mindful about external environment we're in, so we can continuously and constantly to get stimulation and inspiration from the outside. So that's more like the input to our own system. So
100%.
allow us to have something new, something healthy coming in, and we can letting go some old habits, older thinking patterns, older behavior patterns that does not work for us anymore. So this is works for on the personal level and also on the business level.
Definitely. And one thing that I've learned over the last so many years is that
Yes.
you have to continue to evolve and you have to start embracing change. And when I was a bit younger, I never was that comfortable with change, but now I'm starting to really enjoy it and embrace it. And I think you
Yeah.
have to, because the world is moving super fast and business is moving super fast and constantly evolving. And you have to be on top of that. Otherwise you just get left behind.
Exactly. So if I talk from neuroscience point of view, I guess we are not wired to really love change.
Yeah.
Change is painful and difficult and
Yeah.
discomfort for pretty much every single person.
Yes.
So the reality we face is only have two choices. Either I initiate changes that I see can be beneficial to me in the long term,
Yep.
or I just wait until I have to change to
Yes.
survive. So
Yes.
that's the only two options we
Yeah.
have.
True.
Both of them comes with a certain level of pain.
Yeah. It's
But
proactive or reactive. But by the way, you have to
yes,
change.
but the first one comes
Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
When change is inevitable, you have to do it anyway. So
Yep.
either you lead it or you just give up, surrender to it.
Yep.
Each of them comes with lots of pain. It just depends what kind of a pain you prefer.
Yeah. I love that. Fantastic. Now that's actually a really good segue into my first question, Ella.
Yes.
Obviously, you work with lots of SMEs and businesses to help them develop their culture. Um, Now, there has been many organizations that have allowed their culture to develop organically over time.
Mm.
And now they might be at a point where they have to actually develop one that will serve them better. Is that something that
Yeah.
you see often?
I actually see it all the time.
Right.
And when we can say that the people tend to have their culture emerge and grow organically,
Mm-hmm.
but technically I will call that passively. You
Yes.
passively allow whatever patterns in your workplace to emerge, to become the norm of the patterns, the interaction patterns in your
Yep.
workplace. So lots of business that we encountered or they refer to us, what I notice is a bad culture can actually corrupt very good people. Have you ever met any star performer in any organization, and when they left that original organization, make them the star performer and joined another organization, and immediately they couldn't find the support networks, they couldn't find a system to continue to allow them to be the star performer, but lots of organizations blame on that individual. How
Uh-huh.
come you were a star performer but you don't perform now?
Very
So
interesting.
so that is the culture, the outcome of the culture. So when I say good culture can really impact and corrupt a good people, is it because we are conditioned by our environment. So if we do not consciously create the conditions and the environment to allow other people to show, to shine, to perform their best, then we can surely not get there. So there's in my professional life, I was heavily influenced by lots of management consultants or educators. There's one big one called Peter Drunk. Have
Mhm.
you heard about him?
I haven't, no.
So he's passed away already a few years ago, and he is a widely respected, legendary management educator.
Wow.
And he once said, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." So maybe you have heard this.
Culture eats
Yeah,
strategy for breakfast. I love it.
for breakfast. So typically, he didn't mean that strategy was not important, but what he means is a powerful and empowering culture actually is the guaranteed route for the organizational success.
Wow, I love that.
So for lots of SME managers or leaders I met, when I first asked them a question, can you use the 3 words to describe your culture? Most of the time they started, they don't know how to describe what is
Exactly.
the
It's
culture.
very difficult.
Because it can be very abstract,
Yes.
but even it's abstract, but it's a super damn important for the business. So I like to let my clients at the time to just imagine, in front of you you have a wheel
Yep.
with multiple spokes,
Uh-huh.
and in the center of that wheel is your culture.
Right.
So this culture, through all these multiple spokes, they have impact on pretty much all the aspects of your business.
Okay.
It drives the way your employee to do the design, research, or manufacturing, whatever kind of your services or goods you offer to the market.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also influenced the way that you sell, you serve your clients.
Yes.
It even dictates how you meet the expressed or even unexpressed needs or desire of your customers.
Right.
So culture is in the center of every single thing we do in
Absolutely.
our.
Absolutely. And I
But
always say culture is felt more than it is seen. It's very difficult to dissect and describe a culture, but you can feel it when you walk in straight away and when you deal with
totally,
certain people from the organization.
totally. I tend to tell people that the moment your clients, even yourself,
Mm.
in the morning, they get ready to walk
Yep.
to work. So the moment you walk into the front door of your organization, just at that right moment, whatever kind of feelings and the thoughts come into your mind, that provide you some insights. What is the environment here?
Exactly. I like
So,
that.
but for lots of SME owners that we met, because they start a business from scratch as a one-man band or two-man band.
Yep.
So they have been doing everything by themselves and the focus on get the products to the market to sell.
Yep.
It's always quite challenging when they start to bring people in.
Yes.
It might be very good to describe what kind of a product and what kind of service we offer. But what kind of a business it is, what kind of a culture is, how's your employee, including yourself, interact with each other? What is the patterns? That is the hard thing for them to describe, but that is the most important thing for them to pay attention to.
Yes.
What strikes me is in 2018, November, I read this report released by Australian Centre for Business Growth. They did very interesting research and collected data from 650 CEOs.
Wow.
To ask those CEOs the question, what are the reasons for Australian SMEs fail?
Mm.
So give a guess, Darren. In your mind, what do you think is the top reasons or top 5 reasons Australian SME fail?
Not enough time dedicated to building a culture.
Yeah. What else?
Not enough time to training and developing staff.
Yes. What else?
Oh,
sorry, what put you on the
you're putting me on the spot now. Let me think. What else? Not enough thought regarding your strategy moving forward and what you want to achieve.
Yes. Yes, actually, you're quite spot on, because the top reason, which is 25% of the this CEOs, they answer the question as the failure is because lack of leadership, poor management, and no planning.
Right.
So this actually is the central spot for the culture building in the organization. So
Gotcha.
if when we're talking about leadership and the management, we are talking about the process, the systems in the workplace. We're also talking about the feelings, emotions, and the behaviors and the motivations that in the workplace.
Uh-huh.
So if we are all lacking, if we don't have the proper way to use a proper mechanism to really bring people's to inspire people's behavior, there's a very low chance for us to can harness the outcome of the high performance or talent of those
Okay.
individuals.
So in other words, you're saying that the culture can be also developed by everybody being on the same page and understanding what the vision of and the strategy of the company is.
That is one way. That is one way to do it. If you Google what the definition of culture, you will find there's millions way people describe what culture is. But in my words, I tend to use the simple definition of that.
Right.
So the culture is just about how a group of people we do things together.
Mm-hmm.
So it is how the things worked around in this organization, how this organization functions.
Right.
So
Okay.
it pretty much affects every single aspect of the business, from how we develop solutions,
Yep.
to how we sell the product, and to how we make our customer happy.
Okay.
So this whole process about running, operate, or managing a business is all about the patterns of thinking and the relating that tell people how to behave in the organization.
Right.
So how we do things together is about the culture. And what you mentioned is about the vision and activities people can focus on to drive the success. That is on top of the culture. Usually business, we can use vision to really put everyone's head together.
Right.
So if we do not go to the same direction, of course, it's going to be a waste of our energy and the time.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Fantastic. So Ella, I would love to get into a bit of tactical
Yeah.
insight. How difficult is it to really start to develop a culture when you proactively start really wanting to develop something for your future? And how long does it take?
Okay. I constantly being asked by this question. Constantly. And I remember a few years ago, there's a manager invite us to do some culture work with their organization. She said, if I give you 2 hours to run a workshop, can you change the culture here?
Oh my God, 2 hours, that's it.
2 hours, yes. So
Oh my God.
to answer this question, usually I have to reply as it depends,
Yeah, of course.
because it really varies according to a variety of factors. For example, how strong the existing culture is. If the organization has already functioned in this way for over 40, 50 years,
Mm-hmm.
then for us to get in to change the culture to be something the leaders really appreciate, that really take a little bit long time.
Yeah.
And also it depends on the size of the organization. These days, I tend to work with a small, medium-sized business with a team. That's because when you are small, it's easy.
Yes.
It's more like the planting the trees. In
Yeah.
the first 3 years, when you're planting the trees, if we do the work properly, the tree is going to go high by itself in the future. You don't have to keep trimming it.
True.
And the third factors I tend to think is it also depends on how deeply embedded the patterns are. The pattern is how we think, how we
Yes.
react.
Yep.
So all this, just a few elements that contributed to the difficulties of the culture transformation. Of course, in general, we will say the smaller size, the better. If you are small, if the leaders are very open and determined, then you can achieve a lot in just as little as 1 year.
True.
But we also experience for the big organization, like international organization, if we start from a business arm, you can see the changes can happen. The result can show itself within 2 or 3 years. So,
Right.
so it really depends.
Absolutely.
So this is the length of the transformation. Usually, currently the clients I work with, minimum time we suggest 6 to 8 months,
Okay.
because because we need to show people, help them together. We work together to identify what is the patterns in the business.
Right. So it
And
takes at least 6 to 8 months to
yeah,
really start to change a small to medium-sized organization.
yes, because if the leader can see the patterns, they will know which part of the patterns we can put the intervention to change. Then this change put into place usually takes 6 to 8 months. You can see some behavior also changed. So that's we say shortest one, 6 to 8 months.
Okay.
And in terms of how difficult it is, I will say on my hand it can be very easy, because it's more like if you are a very self-conscious person, if you constantly reflect on yourself, you will know how much easier for you to change your behavior, change
Yes.
your thinking pattern, right? But sometimes it can also be hard, because culture work is about we make our unconscious pattern to be conscious.
True.
And sometimes during the process of dig down the unconscious patterns, we might see some part of ourselves we would rather to keep it in the shadow.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
so, so that is sometimes can be hard, because this does require lots of courage. The courage is really be honest to us. Be
Okay.
honest. We need to be honest, and I trust, in particular, the business owners we work with, because you can run a business for 5-7 years with a team. It already is a big achievement.
Definitely.
If at that stage a business owner come to us for the culture transformation, what they want is they want improvement. They want a better. So if you want a better, which means what works for you in the past probably unnecessarily continue to serve you the way you want it.
Exactly.
Oh, so that's all about self-upgrading.
Yes.
And the self-upgrading does require courage to see, to be honest to the self. What
Definitely.
works, what doesn't work, right? And
Definitely.
it's also quite discipline, because culture really has nothing to do what kind of slogan you put on a wall. And I saw so many companies do that.
Oh, yes, 100%. It's not about what you say in a meeting for 1 hour and then you forget about it, or what you put on your email signature, or what you put in your marketing message. It's much, much
Exactly.
deeper than that.
So sometimes can be harder if you don't have enough of mirrors around you to allow you checking different aspects of yourself. Am I living, breathing the culture that I trying to promote here?
Yes.
You usually that will backfire on you, because your people will say, hypocritic. You say one thing, you do another, and
Yes.
why I bother to comply to that? So whatever kind of a promotion of the new way of culture interacting, it doesn't work. So that's the hard part, because it's come down to the details, how we behave and
Definitely.
how we present it. That requires lots of integrity in the process.
Definitely. And it takes a lot
Yes.
of work, a lot of courage, as you say, and a lot of continuous self work to
Yes.
continually change from within to reflect and influence the culture externally. So it's
Yes.
very easy to fall back into old habits as a
Exactly.
business owner and a business leader, but you have to
Exactly.
continually every day work on yourself and strive to continually change from within.
Exactly, because when we anticipate what kind of culture that I would love to see my organization have, it is similar to put a requirement on myself what kind of a person I want to be, because within small medium-sized business, usually 80%, more than 80% of time, the culture or the pattern that we notice in the workplace is exactly the same pattern of the top leaders.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so that's sometimes I see. I also met lots of SME. They are so hungry, so keen, because they really consider the challenges is the opportunity for them to evolve, and they see this culture transformation is a process for them to learning and to putting more tools in their workplace to create the environment that can ultimately trick trigger the behaviors they would love to see in the workplace. So
Exactly.
that actually quite inspiring for me as a consultant who came in to help, because I also learn a lot from my clients, inspired by them as well.
Definitely. 100%. That's so fantastic. Have you got any case studies or examples, obviously keeping confidentiality, but any
Yeah.
examples of an organization that has really succeeded in cultural transformation and how long
Okay.
that took? I'd love to hear about it.
Okay. Actually, I got a few examples, but I would love to share with you a couple
Okay.
that I think was also surprised me.
Wow. Okay. Good.
Because cultural transformation sometimes it's not like we have this rigid process
Exactly.
to see the outcomes.
You never
There's
know. You
many
never
things.
actually know what's going to happen, do you?
Exactly, the many things can emerge in the process.
That's right.
But in terms of the case study, in terms of the case study, but if you Google culture transformation, there's a plenty of academic research paper on that. So when I Googled last time, I think since January 1st this year, there's already 4,000 something research paper
Oh my
on
God.
culture transformation in workplace. So as a topic, it is something has already been very well researched and studied.
Mhm.
The only thing is we just need to put all those theoretical practice into real life.
Right.
So the first example actually coming to my mind is an organization that we have been worked a couple of years ago. So it's a PR marketing organization
Okay.
that at the time we were approached by the CEO, and he said that he has already used lots of consultancies in the market, but it feels doesn't work.
Okay.
And the situation he feels very challenging for him to play his role as a CEO in that company is they got 150 employee already,
Wow.
and he is one of the original founders, three founders. He's one of the founders to set up the business. So, and they have already been operating in the market for 7 years, and they only serve luxury brands. So how we started is we conducted a 360. We're trying to find 360 interview. This is what it means
Sure.
for all the people reporting to CEO, because at the time CEO feels like the difficult situation he was in is, on one hand, he would love to provide flexible working hours for the employees. But since they provide the flexible working hours, and every single morning when he walk into the office, no employee turned up before 11 o'clock.
Oh my God.
So they all come around 11
Yep.
and then go to lunch around 12 or 1 o'clock, then come back to work again around 2 or 3. And they all work very late, around 10 p.m.
Oh.
10 p.m. when they finish the work, go back. Of course, company also offering taxi if you can get an OT payment, and also can call a taxi home.
Yep.
Then in the morning again, come back around
Sure.
11 o'clock.
Okay.
So the CEO personally feels like, oh, even I don't require my people to be here at the 9 or 8 o'clock, but it feels like the energy in the company is dragging. It's very low, even though all these 150 employees, they were all born after 1980s or 1990s.
Oh
So they're
wow.
quite in their 20s, but energy is super low. And the other thing the CEO shared with us is he understands the turnover in this industry is very high. So what they're trying to do is they give the award to the people who stayed in the company more than 18 months. So if you stayed in the company 18 months, your salary going to be doubled.
Wow.
That's super, super generous, isn't it? I hope I can work over there.
Yes, I love it.
And the other thing he shared is it feels like in the morning, during the day when he was in his office, even though he have the different levels, they got 3 levels of the structures of the business. So his subordinates will come to his office and ask millions of questions. He feels like he cannot handle that anymore.
Right.
So after we conducted the 360s, what I discovered actually there's some patterns in this in this company. So first of all, as a PR or designer specialized company, the CEO actually really appreciates perfectionists,
Oh,
which is good. If he does not appreciate that, their design probably is not going to be accepted by all those high-end luxury brands, which
that's
is
true.
good.
Yep.
So on one hand, and then the other thing we noticed is the employee feels like, oh, the company, you actually use us a lot. We have to be connected, we have to be on call all the time, not by the boss but
Right.
also for the clients, because everyone require us, and sometimes clients will send us a request
Yes.
approaching to 5 p.m. in the afternoon. So
Yeah.
the company requests us to respond within 1 hour,
Wow.
so we have to respond. So after that, we thought actually there's a couple of things. Very first couple of things we suggested to the business. Also, there's one thing, because the CEO at the time when I met him, he's overweight and very poor temper.
Mm.
And but he told me that don't ask me to exercise because I hate exercise. And I said, oh, sure, I'm definitely not going to recommend that. I'm not a sports expert. But I said the first two things we suggested to the business in the very first group meeting with all the senior managers. The first one is reconsider the perks the company provided to the employee, the food. In the lobby, they have lots of food store and the vendor
Yes.
machines over there,
Yeah. Yeah.
and all the product was provided by their clients actually,
Right.
but it's all sugar rich snacks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the drinks, the chocolate, the chips, nothing actually help them to be focused if they
Yes.
need to be focused and creative, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing I suggest them to reconsider is to replace all these free products from your clients.
Wow.
Can you provide some fruit and nuts and just
Yeah.
pure water, because
Yeah.
it's very
Yeah.
fun. When I was in their office, I feel so hard to find the water. People
Yeah.
always want me to have a drink, but this drink full of sugar.
Yeah.
So there's no pure water.
Wow.
And the second thing we suggest is because employee does not really have lots of interact with the CEOs, and the CEO was pissed off. No one comes to the office in the morning, and the employee are not motivated to start their day. So what we suggest is, whether CEO you would love to host some weekly breakfast in the
Yeah.
office. In
Great.
the office, just to share with the people what is happening now, and what's the plan for the next month or week or year, whatever it's
Yeah.
on the horizon that you feel open, you feel okay to share with your employee. And just, it's not like you need approval from your staff, but more like consider your employee as your business partners,
Yeah.
right? To share with them. So
Definitely.
you can start your breakfast at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you don't need to force anyone to come. People just voluntarily to register. But whoever come here, they can have a breakfast with
Great.
you, can have some personal conversation with you, can even hear what you say about the business, so you
Great.
don't keep your concerns, worries to yourself. So this is only the first very two things we suggest them to do. And after 6 months, when we revisit the company, what has surprised me, this is what I say, it surprised me.
Wow.
The CEO dropped 20
Oh
kilos.
my God. No way. In 6 months.
6 months, he
Wow.
dropped 20 kilos. And of course, the company still work long hours.
Mm.
But I noticed a few changes in the workplace, in the environment. First of all, the go-to snack for lots of employee becomes the fruit and the nuts, even though they're young,
Wow. Yep.
but because that's what only available in the
Yes.
office.
Great.
So there's no sugary stuff in the
Yep.
office. And the second thing, there's two more things. The other thing is they convert one of the meeting rooms to be their gym.
Okay. Wow.
So in the morning, in the afternoon, even at the night, like 7, 8 o'clock, because lots of people tend to work long hours over there.
Yeah.
So 3 times a day, they have a different type, like a short gym class, like a Zoom.
Wow. That's fantastic.
So this is the HR team did a very good job. And so 3 times a day, people can do some exercise if they want it.
Okay.
And because the meeting room has a soundproof, so even they play music, it's not going to be disturbing for others.
Wow, that's great.
And the other thing I notice is in the meeting room, because every day they have plenty back-to-back meetings. In one of the major meeting rooms, they stack up all the chairs. So they tend to make the meeting shorter. And if it's too long, if you feel tired of standing up to have the meeting, you can just pull out a chair to sit. But by default, there's no chair around the table.
I love that idea. That's brilliant, because everybody's always complaining about long, overdrawn meetings when you can do the same thing in 5 minutes.
Exactly.
What a great idea.
So this is what I see when we really allow people to see the patterns, what is underneath, embed the patterns. People are smart enough to find a way to brainstorm together to find out, oh, if this is not the result, it's not what we want, then which part of the pattern that we can change.
Wow.
And in environment, what are the small changes we can make to trigger the behaviors to come out? So that's one of the organizing. The other one is one in Australia that's very interesting. I think it's probably it is the common situation that we see in a small business here, because lots of small businesses start as a family business.
Yes.
The CEO, MD, or COO, either husband or
wife, kids.
Yes. So this company, when they reached us, they also talking, oh, my employee are not motivated, performance is very poor, I have to monitor every single details, otherwise there's lots of fires for me to put out.
Right.
And so we also did a 360. And what surprised us actually is their employees are so willing to understand the business, so willing to help. And they also say that the CEO, the lady CEO, whose temper is terrible, and who has put her life on hold because they still haven't got children, but because business is so busy, so she feels like she cannot pause to have her personal life going.
Yeah.
It's really, the employee can sense that, can feel that they want to help, but they don't know how, because every single time this one thing I noticed is that I shadowed the CEO for one day. So I just observe in the darkness how they interact. And what I notice is when the CEO open up to talk, it feels like everyone shut up.
Right.
So no one talk at all. So one thing is good, that she's very articulate, she's very direct, very clear. But unfortunately, that way of talking does not inspire her team to think.
Yeah.
Shut them off.
It was too much like a dictatorship, you mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's lots of control, lots of I hope you do, I wish you do, I expect you to.
Oh, okay.
And that's some time. And she's a smart person, because she's so smart that her mind think very quickly. And then sometimes her people has to catch up.
Yeah.
And also, I guess one of the things I noticed is underneath. So we did a lot of exercise with the CEO herself. And one thing I pointing out is, do you feel superior in front of your employee? Because quite similar age, now you're running a business and their employees, do you feel like I know it all, I'm better than others, so I have all the answers? But actually sometimes we don't have the answers, right? If we don't have the answers, but we have this sense of superiority, we feel like the need of pretend that I know everything.
That's right.
So the very first month after we come back with the suggestions, the very first thing I suggest her to do is it possible for you to conduct on a weekly basis with each of the employees who reporting to you directly, just 10 minutes, like 10 minutes on a weekly basis. Is it possible for you to have a conversation one-on-one? You can just grab a coffee or have lunch together, or after coffee, after lunch, just go outside of your office, take a walk, and just chat. Just chat to your employees, say, what works this week? How can I help you to do your work better?
Yeah.
Just those are the only two questions you need to ask. All the others, wait for others to share with you.
I
So
love
I
it.
guess after a few months, when we go back to revisit them, one thing they told us, oh, we discovered so many things in my employee. They have so much talent and skills that we haven't been used
There you go.
for the business.
Oh my
And
God.
and it feels like the distance between us to the employee are much shorter. And
Brilliant.
that is the purpose. That is the purpose for this particular organization. Because when the distance is shorter, people are going to raise the issues with you openly. So I constantly suggest this particular company, I said, let's work together for 1 year, then make sure by the end of 1 year, see whether your employee knock on your door and they're telling you, hey, boss, I noticed what's happening in the market,
Yeah.
and I think it's good for our business. Can we try it?
Wow.
So if we see that happen, that means the culture really shifted.
Incredible.
So those are the two couple examples.
Wow. Brilliant.
Top
I
of my
love it.
mind.
I love it. I love it because it's very, I love you get some really tactical ideas as well and insights into exactly what you recommended and what was the result, which is really
Yeah.
interesting for people to hear.
I've been lucky that so far, most of the clients that we work with, they have this very strong willingness
Yeah.
to improve, because that is a great energy that we can work well together. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Ella, I love it. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Now, before we wrap up, what
Yes.
what advice or little tactics or insights can you give listeners and the viewers, just little small actions that they can take either personally or from the employee side, but also from the employer side, into how to be
Yeah.
more successful and how to assist and facilitate that cultural transformation?
Fantastic. Actually, there's also a couple, which is the exercise we used with our clients. But I think every business,
Yeah.
if they are considering or if they have some doubts about their culture, maybe they can start to practice and try it out on their own. Because as a founder or leaders in the SMEs, this single person is actually the culture of the business.
True. The culture comes from the leader, comes from the top down.
And one skill that differentiates leaders who are success and who are not is just the ability to reflect.
I like that.
So there's two exercise I would love to share with the audience.
Yep.
The first one is reflect inwardly.
Okay.
And a lot of leaders come to us is because their business is really struggling. Mm-hmm. And they have lots of doubts. So one thing I suggest them to reflect is whatever the qualities this person, you as the leader, as a person you possess that allows you to achieve the success of today, we need to make it very clear. Because those are the qualities actually unintentionally spread out in your organization. And sometimes the leaders, if they only think on their own, it's very hard for them to find a complete picture about who they are, what they do well. Yeah. So I also suggest them just to go out, ask your employee, ask your family, ask your client, ask your friends. Ask them to make a list of you. Ask them, say, hey, if you need to describe me to someone else, what kind of words you're going to use to describe me, good and bad, be honest.
I like that, yep.
So that's other qualities you will know exactly who you are, because honestly, we are all a mixed bag of good and bad. But we need to know what it is. Yeah, we need to know. We need to make the good the better, but we need to find someone else, or we need to create an environment and a system and a process to dilute my weakness as a leader,
right?
Like
that. So yes, very good.
This is the very first one, is just to look inwardly,
so
to
reflect
review
inwardly.
To reflect on your qualities.
Yes.
And when you reflect your qualities, also start to notice what are the patterns you developed in your workplace according to those qualities, good and bad. Okay. So how you think about that. And the second techniques usually I ask small medium clients to do is we need to look forwardly. So I call that fast forward techniques.
Fast forward technique.
So
Okay, I
fast,
love it.
because if we don't know where we want to go, it's always a waste of energy and time just modeling around, right?
Yeah.
So fast forward techniques is simple and easy. You just need to imagine that after 3 years later, if you work into your company and at that moment you feel everything is working as it should be.
Great.
So all current issues you're facing has already resolved. So describe when you just put yourself in that kind of state. You work in your office, everything's good, everything is working the way it is supposed to be. And so at that moment, describe what you see that is happening at that time.
Right.
And particularly, what is the purpose of your business in the society? Because for small, medium-sized business, because the challenge is most of them start to run the business to make money. And after 3 or 4 years, when they really establish the business, they feel it's so challenging to continue to engage my employee, even I give them money.
Yeah, that's true.
So particularly these days, we start to recruit lots of millennial young kids. Those kids, they want more.
Yep.
They want a meaning. They want
That's
a
right.
purpose.
They want to feel part of something. They want to they want to go on the journey with you. It's not so much about the money for them. It's about many other things.
Exactly. So they want to feel like, oh, it's worthwhile for me to spend my hours, my times here.
That's right.
So after 3 years, think about what the company looks like if everything works.
Right.
And what the role, the purpose you play in the society.
Right.
Then you link with that. So
they're almost like advanced affirmations or positive visionary techniques.
Exactly. That's one of the visualization techniques.
Visualization techniques, that's the word.
Yeah, but for business, when we take visualization, it's a little bit wishy-washy. But
Yeah.
fast forward.
I like it. Fast forward.
3 years, we'll probably not be able to plan every single thing in detail within these 3 years, but at least we know what we would love to feel in the 3 years time, when everything is right, when we are on top of things, when we are success. So those are the two techniques. I think it's simple and easy for everyone to do with that. Yes.
I love it. And so that's fantastic, Ella. So and for all the audience out there and the viewers, first technique was reflect inwardly, and second technique, fast forward. I love it. How great is that? And now if people want to find you and have a chat with you about how you can help their organization, what's the best way for them to find you?
Okay, if they want to Google me, just Google Institute of Growing Capacity, or if they love to call me, I have a number 0412 061 515. Otherwise, they always leave a message to you, Darren, and you know who I am and where I am.
Definitely, everybody can also leave me a message, and I can very happily put you in touch with Ella.
Thank you so much, Darren.
But this was a really interesting podcast and really interesting insights, both strategically and tactically. So I think that everybody will get a lot out of this, and it's something that it's probably worth listening to a few times to really get a lot of that stuff out of it, because you really went into a lot of detail, which is amazing.
Thank you, Darren.
Awesome. So look, thank you again, Ella. Really appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you, Darren.
And we wish you all the very best in your business, and I'm sure that some people will get in touch. So for all the listeners out there, that's another episode for us here at the Suspended Animation Podcast. But we'll be back in touch very, very soon. And thanks again, Ella.
Thank you very much, Darren. Have a nice day.
And thank you.
Bye for now.